first met Andrew many years ago at a jam night. He's always had lots of interesting things to talk about, and he's a collector of many things. Lately, he's been very involved in the film industry, and he was eager to tell me all about that, but I'll let him introduce himself first.
My name is Andrew Long. I was born in Fredericton and spent certainly all my childhood here. I went to boarding school for high school and then ended up at the University of Brunswick, where I got a degree in art history and in existential philosophy. And not long after that, I ended up moving to Paris for a number of years. Before I had gone there, I'd actually been to Europe once before, where I was studying classical archaeology in Greece and Turkey, and Renaissance architecture in Rome and Florence. So I had some idea of the Mediterranean at least, and I had seen Paris as well. So when I moved back, that became a nice central location to visit London and Amsterdam and northern Spain and southern France. I went to Morocco for 3 weeks in the middle of winter many years ago. And I had conferred with someone from Morocco beforehand to get an idea of where the best places to go were, and he told me straight out, to hell with the cities, just go to the desert. So that's exactly what I did, is I ended up in a one-story mud brick dirt floor hotel for a couple of weeks on the edge of the Sahara Desert, and spent some time out camping in the desert, actually. When I got back to Paris, I found that there was so much sand in my clothing that just shaking it out on some newspapers, I managed to collect a full bottle full desert sand from the Sahara. When I returned from France, I ended up getting a job working as an appraiser of military antiquities for an online catalog. Part of the reason why I got that was that in France there were remnants of the occupation I would find in flea markets, magazines, coins, things like that. And so I started collecting bits and pieces of Second World War memorabilia, and met a guy who had a business dealing in this stuff, and he ended up hiring me, and I worked for him for 7 years. Well, I ended up supervising a short film that was set during the Japanese occupation of Korea. And although it started out just sort of being an advisor, I ended up doing more hands-on things and supervised very closely the construction of costumes, Japanese uniforms. In this film, in addition to supervising the costumes, I actually hand-carved 3 Japanese rifles after taking photographs and measurements of a real one. And we cast a Japanese bayonet that I had and made it out of foam rubber and painted it up, because I knew the bayonet would be what the eye would be drawn to, and that way I didn't have to worry too much about the rifles being a little rough. And indeed, you don't notice how rough they are.
They must give a great honor to him whenever they encounter him or his needed. Whomsoever practice law will be.
If you determine what the essential element is in the scene, to sell it, as long as you get that right, everything else is gravy. Generally speaking, I have a very minimalist approach. If I'm going in to dress a set, I like to put just as many things in it to make it real, unless the character is supposed to be chaotic or insane. And in that case, of course, you could fill it with a lot of things because it creates that sort of chaos. But again, I think as long as you nail the element or elements that really sell what that scene is, then you've pretty much done it. And a good example is in Benoit, when I had to create a secret lab. And of course, this is a good example of insane clutter. And that I went into a blank room and filled it with medical equipment that I had found other places. But I knew that the one thing that would really sell that scene would be the overhead operating light. So when I found that, I made that front and center, and I think that without it, it would be conspicuous by its absence.
I think I might have seen fragments. Oh my god. That was really hard to watch.
Andrew's also been working on his own film, a Western, for some time. Until now, Rebecca, his lead actress, hadn't seen some of the footage.
When I go to close the door, I want it to fade to black, and you hear the sound of the door closing. And then, of course, my coat covers as I sit down. We've spent one whole evening on this one shot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that
and we did it 20 times, and take 20 was the only.
And it was
rule.
freezing the whole time we were shooting. You can't tell because it's all like warm lighting and stuff, but it was actually icy cold. We had to go huddle by the fire to keep our like fingers or toes from falling off.
Fortuitously, I know enough talented people that I don't have to do everything. And where there's been things I needed to have done that I knew someone could do a better job than I could, or at least do it faster, I've always subcontracted that. For instance, I had one friend grab a bunch of these plastic guns and paint them up to look real, or real enough for film purposes.
Yeah.
I had another friend who was a crackerjack with printing and Photoshop come up with all these fake bills for another production. I love this one, 20. Bank of Nada.
Yes.
And another who is a good sculptress, and she made these severed fingers for another production. And a very good job. It's made with mortician's wax.
Yeah, they're convincing.
I have a great interest in abstract strategy games and board games. This is an abstract strategy game. It's actually a recreation of one from the Viking Age. This king piece, which you'll notice is resting on a square, it has the same pattern as these corner squares, has to get to one of these corner squares to win.
Okay.
My job is to prevent you from doing that.
Sure.
You got it.
I see.
There's nothing I can do. Fuck!
Andrew loves to make wine. He's made many unconventional wines, such as pumpkin, birch, and rosemary over the years. Today he opened a bottle of his blueberry wine for us to try. It was the perfect way to end the night. Thank you. Cheers.
6 minutes exactly.
Okay.
So maybe what we'll do, if you want to take 6 minutes, we'll just take a look at it and decide what's the best. Right?